This episode of Anxiety Slayer is sponsored by BetterHelp. Give online therapy a try and save 10% on your first month at betterhelp.com/slayer. That's betterhelp, HELP.com/slayer. Welcome to Anxiety Slayer. We come together weekly to share a powerful collection of conversations, resources, and techniques to help you find relief from anxiety. And we just started our 15th season. Welcome, Ananga.
Hey, Shan.
This week, we're discussing how to take good care of your nervous system. Many people are feeling the stress of current events right now, and we wanted to share some valuable suggestions to help you look after yourself if you feel like you're carrying the weight of the world on your shoulders. And before we begin, we'd like to thank our new patrons, Sue, Jody, and Francine, for supporting our work together. If you want to become an Anxiety Slayer patron and get access to over 200 anxiety relief offerings, visit patreon.com/anxietyslayer. How to love up your nervous system during times of uncertainty. That is the question. Been quite a week, Ananga.
Yeah. A lot going on.
I'll just start by sharing that one of the reasons why I wanted to cover this topic this week is many of us in the U.S. are feeling a bit stressed after the U.S. election. And I know many people are not, but I am, and have found that I have to use the tools that I know so well even more to just stay in a sweet, calm, and peaceful place and not let the fear of what might happen or the fear of people being treated unfairly, etc., take over my life. And as you and I talked before recording today, it's a lot. And right now, each and every one of us, no matter what you're feeling, whether it be in alignment with this election or in alignment with something that's happening in your area, the California fires, or anywhere you see something devastating happening that you define devastating, there's so much you can do to support your nervous system. There really is. One of the things that I do when I'm in this space is give myself some time to feel how I feel. And in this particular case, I am very troubled by our new president being in office. And I get to feel that way because we're all allowed to feel how we feel. And then I kind of give myself a deadline on, all right, this is what's going on. Now let's get back to your life and let's get back to what's important. And what's important for me is focusing on my self-care and my family and my community, our work together, Ananga, our listeners, and bringing the best content we can forward and talking about the hard thing. You and I stay far away from politics, and we always have. And so we're not going to get into that today, but there's a very real sense of mourning for a lot of people. And I suspect some of our listeners are feeling that as well. The best thing you can do is feel how you feel. And then we're going to share a bunch of different ideas and tips and things that you can do to continue to love up your nervous system during times of uncertainty.
I like how you shared that self-respect of allowing time, honoring your feelings, and allowing yourself to feel how you feel. And then also putting a time frame on it. And we were speaking earlier about this, and I was thinking how if somebody else does it for us, it can feel like bypassing or dismissive or uncomfortable. But we have the right to set that boundary for ourselves and say, okay, I'm going to sit with this for a period of time. And then I guess if you've put a time constraint, for want of a better word, out there, then you're looking towards that, aren't you? And you're looking towards what's next. What am I going to do next? And then you came around to self-care, family, community, serving the Anxiety Slayer community, trying to support our listeners. It sounds like a very healthy way to go about things.
Thank you. It's, I think the best thing that you can do is to focus on what's right here, right now, instead of what could happen, what is happening, the headlines, the garbage in, garbage out, all of that stuff is like, that's not helpful.
Yeah. There's so many things that come around in life where we can so quickly and easily feel overwhelmed and helpless. I remember learning from somebody a few years ago. Funnily enough, I was in an Apple store in a shopping center, and on their big screens, they had live coverage of a tsunami happening. And it was something, I was younger, and it was something I hadn't witnessed before. And I was really like, oh my God, what is this? And there was a guy in the store that had been in a tsunami. And he said, you know, they're so powerful that even if you're ankle deep in the water, it can take you out. It's something that's really stayed with me as like a broader teaching that we can get taken out without realizing. We can find ourselves in a situation where we feel so overwhelmed and so hopeless and helpless, even just by looking at the news. You know, we go on there because we want to check something. Sometimes we want to check something specific out, and then you see something and something else, and you can start to feel really anxious and helpless.
Yeah.
And I think of it as being like that, kind of wading into something that is far more disturbing than we could ever have fathomed, and all kinds of information comes our way. I find the news on the climate, disturbance to different habitats, stuff like that. I find that really heartbreaking and really challenging.
You want to stay informed, aware of the things that you do care about, and at the same time, protect yourself from the vitriol and the very sad state of things in certain spaces, whether it be the tsunami, whether it be the fires, whether it be the habitat, climate change, politics,
Yeah.
you know, and it goes on, right? Circuits are overloading. What can we do? Where can we find the balance between staying informed and looking after ourselves?
Yeah. I saw a quote this morning from an author. She's new to me, newly discovered author, but I will recommend her book here. She's called Margaret Renkl, Renkl, and she wrote a beautiful book called The Comfort of Crows. And it's illustrated by her brother, which I think is very sweet. And the illustrations are really, really nice, very interesting illustrations. They're kind of like collages of different images. And there's a quote from her I read just this morning saying, I'm not trying to hide from the truth, but to balance it, to remind myself that there are other truths too.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, because we can just get swamped. And she's very heartsore about climate change, and she's a real lover of nature, and she writes beautifully about it. And you can see she's very aware, but she's also got her area where she does what she can. So yeah, not hiding from the truth, but to balance it and remind ourselves that there are other truths too. And you and I were just talking today before we started recording about the kindness of people we meet, the warm hearts. I was sharing with you about a trip to the pharmacy when I had such a nice conversation with a lady who turns out to be a neighbor, and she was appreciating the tree opposite her house and saying how much I loved that big old tree. And she said, in all seasons, she said, it looks beautiful in all seasons. And I really warmed to her for that. So we were talking about, you know, the clamor of harshness. It's so loud and so obvious, and it really can break through into our peace, but we're surrounded by kind, good people. And that's helpful for me to remember that.
And to really take notice when those moments happen so that you can remember there really is still so much great and crushing beauty all around us.
Yeah, so much to be grateful for, so much to appreciate in others. And often little conversations and exchanges like that will go in my journal to remember and appreciate. They're the kinds of little treasures. You know, to me, that's like picking up a leaf on a walk and pressing it. It's just a little something to tuck away, a sweet moment.
Mm.
And I think when we're talking about taking care of our nerves, there's one word that always comes through for me and it's not my own wisdom by any stretch. It comes from Ayurveda, something I learned from Ayurveda. Warmth. Our nerves don't like cold, and they don't like rough either. They like warm and soft. But warmth is really a very helpful word to remember. So in terms of physical nerve care, keeping warm, keeping wrapped up, looking at our bedding, blankets, nourishing meals like soups, vegetable stews, dal, different warming spices, cumin, black pepper. And those spices not only help us digest our food, but they clear the channels of the body. Very nice things to turn to, warming teas. That's the physical stuff. But our mind needs warmth too, and our hearts need warmth too. And that comes from what we were just talking about, good, warm, kind company in person, good talks, hugs, and also reading. If I encounter the news, it's through reading, and it will take approximately 3 minutes for me to feel my stress levels go up. But it can go the other way too. If I keep away from the news and pick up a good book, and I spend time with an author like Margaret Renkl or so many others I like to read. I like to read spiritual texts too from the Vedas. Very quickly I can go the other way and start to feel some comfort, some inspiration, to feel really soothed. So I think just at such times when things are rough, to think of warmth and where we can find it.
I have my favorite slippers that I wear this time of year in my big old house because it's very drafty. And where I live, it's been below zero the last several days, or maybe it might climb up to 1 or 2 degrees Fahrenheit. And so the warmth you're speaking of has been really front and center for me, because I know the warm spots. I even worked in my bed the other day. I just got myself as comfortable as I could and set up a little area where I could still get my work done, but I was nice and warm and cozy. Felt much better having made that choice than where I normally work in my office, which is fairly cool where I am right now. And warm bath. I made myself a big pot of dal this week that I could eat several days in a row for lunch. Thinking about that, getting away from the smoothie, the protein smoothies that I usually do. My body was very clear in letting me know. But anyway, that warmth in kindness, that warmth in physical warmth, the warmth in nutrition. Is there anything better than that? And just loved up.
And there's always something we can do, something we can pick from a variety of options. You mentioned warm slippers, and I was just thinking the other day I was hearing from a Qigong teacher who was sharing how important it is to have warm legs and feet at this time of year, and how if we don't, it affects our kidney energy, because the root of the kidney meridian is in the center of the sole of our feet. We often talk about EFT tapping and tapping on that collarbone point. For anxiety, that's one end of the kidney meridian. That's kidney 27. Kidney 1 is in the middle of the bottom of our feet. So if our feet are cold and our legs are cold, it increases the potential for us to catch colds in the spring, but it can also increase anxiety because that energy point gets cold. So in my home, I have a bathroom with tiled flooring, which is really cold. And I'm very careful when I go in there to make sure I've got, thick socks and slippers on. And really important to keep our feet warm. Also, you can massage your feet as well, especially before taking rest at night. It's such a simple thing.
Yeah, it really is. And when our nervous system is overreactive, we're just in that space of always spinning and just coming back to that place of, oh, wait. What do I need to do for my sweet body right now? And, what can I do for my mind? And that warmth is there, that getting grounded is there, allowing yourself to be quiet, just close your eyes and just, okay, I'm grounding right now. I'm taking it easy. I'm not all spun out and jangly.
Yeah, it's a choice, isn't it? It's a choice we can make. not always easy. It's a practice, something we have to practice. Sometimes my mind objects to what other parts of me feel are really good ideas, and it argues, but I try and ignore it and do them anyway, and then it kind of gets on board. I was thinking about when we're receiving disturbing news, how there's the external situation of what might come before our eyes and come into our ears, but also there's the internal landscape, and how, without realizing it, we can put ourselves under so much internal pressure by just going over and over things we don't like, resisting things, objecting to things, and then we can fire ourselves up. We can be arguing in our own head. We can become angry, frustrated, helpless, just because we get in this habit of these dialogues, mental objections and conversations to things that we don't like. And then we can get stuck in that. It can become a habit. And that affects our energy, our mood, our digestion. It affects everything. And I was thinking about challenging times in my life where I have to really be careful. I might cook warm, healthy lunch, and then I'll sit down to eat it. And I have to check I'm in a good place mentally. Because as I've shared recently, sometimes in the kitchen, that's when my mind likes to bring things to my attention. And if I don't check it and stop it, it might have caught me, like that tsunami that can catch your ankles and whip you out to sea. The mind can do that so quickly. So, if we sit down to eat and we're angry or frustrated, that meal will not nourish us. It will do quite the opposite.
When you start paying attention to what you're thinking and what's coming up and how you're feeling, this is the perfect moment to interrupt any of the patterns that you have. That's why we talk about being aware, trying to be aware of what's going on, because so many of our thoughts are repetitive, stemming from those long-standing patterns. And then the brain is so very helpful by being biased to the negative things and bringing things up that, it's just that tiger in the tail type of thing. And so when you can come back to stopping it and noticing and doing what you can to move out of that space. Just earlier this week, I was feeling like I just needed to nap and not be dealing with the real world. And then I wasn't tired and my body wasn't, anyway. And finally I said, get out of this bed and go move your body. And I did. And I got up and I got on the treadmill. I only walked like 15 minutes. And it changed everything. I moved the energy. I got out of my own way. I didn't want to do that. I wanted to be in that safe island of my own bed, right? But the choice I made was actually much better for my nervous system.
Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, and the mind will kick and scream and object all the way if it's out of balance, if we're out of balance. It's not acting as our friend. But yeah, as we've shared before, it's always good to move or we get stuck. And good to check in, if we're sitting down to meditate or we're about to engage with another person or about to eat our lunch or our evening meal, to just check in, take a few deep breaths. How am I doing? Am I meeting this well? Am I open to receiving nutrition with gratitude? Am I in good shape to show up with this other person? Am I present? It only takes a minute to switch out. Just take a few deep breaths. Oh, okay, let's just be calm and present and grateful. That's all it takes. But it's so easy for us to sit down disturbed and just start mechanically putting food into our body, and we're not doing ourselves any good at all. So there's always things we can look at, things we can change. And I was also thinking, Shant, and I know you used to teach this, in times where we feel like there's so much coming at us that we can't do much about and we're not happy about it, whatever it might be, is that teaching from Stephen Covey, the circle of influence and the circle of concern.
Control what you can't control.
What you can and what you can't, and how we can get locked in what worries us, what concerns us, but we can't control it, and how that then can grow. And the anxiety grows and the helplessness grows, and the area where we have control shrinks.
Yeah. And when we're in that space, when we're not loving up our nervous system, everything kind of goes wonky. Everything goes, I think of a light bulb crying out, wait a minute, what's happening here? And so much of it, and I say this lovingly and with my own experience, we bring on ourselves by piling on and by creating these dialogues that are not supportive, or by being impatient with ourselves. That's a big one. Like, be more patient with yourself, be more sweet to yourself. Another thing that helps when we're feeling out of balance is to hum or listen to your favorite music and allow yourself to just kind of bring something in that brings you joy. I noticed over the holidays, I was listening to a lot more music than I normally do while preparing food or cleaning the house, or, that kind of thing. And it always lifts my spirit so much. And as much as I adore listening to music, I could listen more. And I invite myself to listen more than I do. And it also has the extra benefit of distracting you from whatever it is you've been chewing over in your mind, because you're listening to something that brings you joy.
Yeah. Another way of really shifting into a better state of mind. That's a great thing to remember. And that's something that really helps me in the kitchen if my mind's choosing to bring something to my attention that I really don't want to stew on or get snagged by. But that really helps. Or I'll have an audiobook, because that will really catch my mind and get me thinking. Good to know where we need shoring up a bit and where we need some sweetness and some support. Where we put our focus directly impacts our nerves, doesn't it? And there's the external, and there's the facts and the things that we have to come to terms with and we don't like, but then there's the internal stuff as well. And sometimes we can really keep that going and tire our nervous system.
I'm really glad that we had the chance to talk about this and the importance of warmth. I love that. And just looking after ourselves in a sweeter way, and knowing that there are things that we can do, that you can do every single day to bring yourself some more comfort and some more relaxation, especially when there's so much harsh news coming at you, and to just allow yourself to come back to that place of, okay, right now, I'm here right now looking after myself. I'm here right now enjoying my conversation with my friend. I'm here right now loving that big tree. That kind of thing. And I know sometimes it sounds so simple, but it really is that simple.
To me, those things are good medicine.
Yeah. Thanks for listening. For support with starting a daily calming practice, you can join our Patreon, along with over 200 guided relaxations, tapping sessions, and classes to help you slay your anxiety. Visit patreon.com/anxietyslayer.